Ladies and gentlemen, urgency, shackles. A principle so simple, yet so profound, that it has the power to transform your entire existence. It is this: the less you care about what doesn't matter, the more you'll enjoy what truly does. Remote we enter this world, we are conditioned to care about what they think, what they say, what they post, what they expect. We become prisoners of perception, shackled by invisible chains forged from judgment and comparison. And in that prison, happiness withers. Detach from opinions, anchor to purpose. This simple shift in mindset can elevate a man from confusion to clarity, from weakness to unwavering power. When you detach from the opinions of others, you free yourself from one of the most invisible but destructive prisons known to mankind: the need for external validation. Opinions are like the wind. They change direction without warning. One moment you're praised, the next you're criticized. If you allow your sense of self-worth to be dictated by this fickle wind, you'll spend your life being tossed about, never finding stability. But purpose is your anchor. It doesn't sway with public opinion. It doesn't bow to popular trends. It remains unmoved, a solid foundation beneath your feet. When you're rooted in your purpose, criticism doesn't sting the same way, and praise doesn't inflate your ego. You remain grounded. You become immune to distraction, because you're driven by something greater than approval. You're driven by intention. The man who lives for the applause of others is a slave to their silence. But the man who walks in his purpose, who acts from within and not from without, is truly free. He understands something the masses overlook, that greatness isn't born in crowds. It's cultivated in solitude, in silence, in stillness, far away from the noise of opinion. Ask yourself, how many decisions have you made just to please others? How many dreams have you abandoned because someone didn't get it? How many parts of yourself have you hidden away because you feared judgment? Every time you bend yourself to fit the mold others place on you, you lose a piece of your soul. But every time you say, no, this is who I am, and this is where I'm going, you take it back. You don't need everyone to understand your vision. It wasn't given to them, it was given to you. And that's the beauty of purpose. It gives you clarity in chaos. It gives you direction when you're surrounded by doubt. When you're anchored in it, the noise fades. The opinions, the likes, the comments, they become background static. You stop performing for others and start creating for your calling. True confidence comes not from being told you're enough, but from knowing it deep within you. Knowing that your path, your mission, your reason for being is far more important than anyone's approval. You weren't born to blend in. You were born to stand firm. So stand tall, not in arrogance, but in certainty. Not because they agree, but because you know. Detach from their noise. Anchor to your purpose. That's where your real power begins. Master the mind, not the world. Every man at some point in his journey makes the mistake of trying to control everything outside of him, his circumstances, his environment, the people around him. He believes that peace will come when the world behaves the way he wants it to. But the truth, the eternal truth, is this: peace does not begin in the world. It begins in the mind. A man who attempts to master the world without first mastering himself will always be at war, no matter how much he gains or how high he climbs. You cannot control the weather, but you can control your reaction to the storm. You cannot dictate the opinions of others, but you can choose not to be disturbed by them. You cannot prevent every setback, every betrayal, every challenge, but you can decide what those moments mean to you. That power of interpretation, of internal control, is the mark of a truly developed mind. It is the separation between those who are tossed by life and those who shape their life from within. And the man who has not yet mastered his thoughts is a servant to his emotions. He is calm one moment and chaotic the next, all because he gave the keys of his peace to the outer world. But the one who disciplines his mind, who watches his thoughts like a guardian at the gate, who chooses his responses with intention, he becomes unshakable. He becomes like a mountain amidst a storm, still, grounded, immovable. Thoughts are seeds. If you plant fear, doubt, and worry, you will harvest anxiety, hesitation, and regret. But if you plant discipline, focus, and resilience, you will reap confidence, clarity, and strength. The quality of your mind determines the quality of your life. That's why every victory begins in silence, in solitude, in the unseen battle between your ears. What you allow to grow in your mind will eventually manifest in your reality. Most people spend their days reacting to news, to gossip, to problems that don't even belong to them. Their minds are constantly under siege. But the wise man, the purposeful man, builds a fortress around his peace. He does not invite chaos in. He does not hand over his calm to every inconvenience. He knows that his time, energy, and focus are his greatest assets, and he guards them like treasure. To master your mind is to claim ownership over your life. You stop blaming the economy, your past, or other people. You stop waiting for things to be easier. Instead, you become stronger. You stop wishing for fewer problems and start developing better solutions. And above all, you learn to respond, not react. That is the mark of maturity. That is the beginning of mastery. You may not be able to control the world, but you can always control how you show up in it. And when your mind is trained, when your thoughts are aligned, when your focus is unshakable, you no longer need the world to change for you to find peace. Comparison is a silent killer of joy. It creeps in quietly, disguised as motivation, masked as ambition. At first, it feels like it's pushing you to improve, to do more, to be more. But soon it begins to rot your sense of self from the inside out. You start to measure your worth by the progress of another. You start to doubt your pace because someone else is running faster. And without realizing it, you hand over your peace to the illusion of someone else's perfection. Every person walks a different path, fights unseen battles, and carries silent burdens. Yet we live in a world where highlight reels are mistaken for real life. We scroll through curated success, edited smiles, and polished victories, and we start to believe the lie that we're behind, that we're not enough, that we've somehow missed the mark. But how can you be behind on a path that was never meant to match anyone else's? When you compare, you rob yourself twice. First, you steal the joy of appreciating your own growth. Second, you deny the unique brilliance that only you can offer. No two lives are meant to unfold the same way. Just as no two seeds bloom at the same time, no two destinies unfold on the same schedule. The moment you start comparing your timeline to another's, you step off your path and begin chasing a mirage. And what does this constant comparison breed? Insecurity, envy, restlessness. It takes your eyes off your own purpose and turns your focus outward, where it doesn't belong. You start to compete in games that were never yours to play. You start to mimic instead of master. You try to win a race that leads nowhere. All the while, Your own life, the one you were meant to live, passes by, unnoticed, unloved, and unfulfilled. The wisest man is the one who knows that real success is not measured by trophies or applause, but by alignment, by how closely he lives to the truth of who he is. He knows that someone else's success does not equal his failure, that there's room for every flame to burn bright without dimming another. He celebrates others because he is secure in his own lane, and that security is what sets him free. You do not need to be better than anyone else. You only need to be better than you were yesterday. That's the only comparison that leads to growth. That's the only competition that matters. Focus on your habits, your mindset, your mission. Celebrate your wins, no matter how small. Track your own progress, not someone else's perfection. Because the more you compare, the more you chase shadows. But the more you embrace your own journey, the more joy you find in the steps you've taken, and the more power you unlock in the steps ahead. Joy isn't found in becoming someone else. It's found in becoming fully, unapologetically you. Simplicity unlocks fulfillment. In a world that constantly screams for more success, more noise, more validation, the man who seeks less becomes a rare force. We are taught from an early age to chase complexity, to believe that happiness lies somewhere beyond the next achievement, the next possession, the next recognition. But the truth is, most people are not exhausted because they lack time or resources. They are exhausted because they are carrying too much of what does not matter. Simplicity is not about doing less. It's about doing only what truly counts. It is the art of removing the unnecessary so that the essential may shine. And you clear the clutter from your life, from your thoughts, from your heart. You make space. And in that space, clarity rises. Peace enters. Focus sharpens. Fulfillment is no longer something you chase. It becomes something you feel. Look around you. Most people are sprinting through life, adding layer upon layer of responsibility, comparison, and distraction, never questioning why they feel so overwhelmed. They believe that happiness is something to be acquired, stacked and stored. But what if it was something to be uncovered instead? What if fulfillment was buried beneath the chaos, waiting to be revealed through simplicity? The wise man understands that the value of life is not found in how much you own, but in how deeply you live. He doesn't chase 10 different goals to please 10 different people. He chooses one, the one aligned with his spirit, and pours everything into it. He does not measure his days by how full they are, but by how meaningful they are. He knows that the richest moments in life are often the quietest ones. The deep conversation, the peaceful morning, the task done with full attention. When you simplify, you regain your power. You stop scattering your energy across endless distractions and instead concentrate it like a beam of light. And focused light has the power to cut through steel. In the same way a focused life cuts through confusion. It gives you the ability to say no to what doesn't serve your higher self, and yes to what does. But simplicity requires courage. It demands that you walk away from the noise, from the race, from the expectations that don't belong to you. It asks you to face your true desires, stripped of ego, stripped of appearance. That's where real fulfillment is born, not in the abundance of things, but in the abundance of meaning. You were not created to live in chaos. Your mind was not designed to carry everything at once. Your spirit craves direction, not distraction, so simplify your priorities. Simplify your goals. Simplify your inner world, because the less you carry, the further you can go. And the less you chase, the more life flows to you, naturally, freely, abundantly. In simplicity, there is space. In space, there is clarity. And in clarity, there is a kind of fulfillment no noise can offer. Release the need for approval. There is no prison more confining than the constant hunger for someone else's validation. The desire to be liked, to be accepted, to be praised. It seems harmless at first, even natural. But over time, it becomes a silent chain that wraps around your potential and tightens with every decision made to please rather than to progress. Approval is a drug, and like all addictions, it numbs the spirit and blurs the vision. The man who lives for approval will die by its absence. What most never realize is that the approval they seek is always moving. One day you're celebrated, the next you're forgotten. One moment you're the favorite, the next you're the target of critique. And so, a man who builds his identity on the applause of others builds on sand, unstable, temporary, vulnerable to every passing opinion. But a man who knows his worth, who defines himself from within, is immovable. He walks through the world not seeking permission, but guided by principle. When you need approval to feel enough, you hand over the keys of your destiny to people who may not even understand your vision. You start shrinking to fit their expectations. You water down your brilliance so it doesn't make them uncomfortable. And slowly, piece by piece, you lose yourself. Your voice gets quieter. Your dreams get smaller. You trade authenticity for acceptance. But what is the use of being loved for a version of yourself that isn't even real? There is nothing more powerful than a human being who no longer needs to be liked to move forward. Approval is a borrowed crown. Confidence is a forged one. And confidence is built in silence, when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when the only validation you get is from the fire in your own chest, telling you to keep going. The world will always have something to say. Too loud, too quiet, too bold, too soft, too much, not enough. If you wait for consensus, you will wait forever. Some will never clap, no matter how great your performance. Some will never see you clearly, no matter how transparent you are. So why live for their applause? Why shrink to fit into a mold they didn't even build themselves? To release the need for approval is not to become arrogant. It is to become authentic. It is to trust your own voice even when it shakes. It is to move forward even when no one cheers. It is to build a life that aligns with your spirit, not with their opinions. This kind of life, this real, raw, self-directed life, may not attract the crowd, but it will attract clarity. And clarity is worth more than any round of applause. The greatest creators, the true leaders, the boldest souls, none of them walked a path designed by others. They did not wait to be chosen. They chose themselves. They were willing to be misunderstood, even criticized, because they knew that staying true was more important than being liked. They were fueled by purpose, not permission. You must understand the only approval you truly need is your own. The only voice that must be in alignment is the one inside your own head, because when that voice is clear, when it is rooted in truth, when it echoes with conviction, you are unstoppable, not because they believe in you, but because you believe in you. Let them misunderstand you. Let them question you. Let them doubt you. Just don't let you doubt you, and release the need for their approval and step into your own power. That's when the real journey begins. Focus only on what you control. The greatest waste of energy is pouring it into battles that were never yours to fight. Worrying about outcomes you cannot predict, obsessing over people you cannot change, stressing about situations beyond your reach. This is how most people drain their spirit. They scatter their power across 1,000 what-ifs, trying to force the uncontrollable into submission. And in the process, they lose their strength, their peace, and their direction. But the man who learns to focus only on what he controls becomes a master of his own life. He doesn't try to calm the storm. He learns how to sail through it. He doesn't beg the world to be fair. He becomes stronger, wiser, and more deliberate with each step he takes. He doesn't waste time trying to bend reality to his will. Instead, he sharpens the only tool that truly matters, his response. You cannot control the behavior of others, but you can control how you choose to respond. You cannot guarantee success, but you can control your effort, your discipline, your mindset. You can't always predict the timing, the outcome, or the reaction, but you can show up with integrity, with consistency, and with the unshakable decision to grow regardless of the result. When you stop trying to control everything, you reclaim the energy that was being wasted on fear, and that energy can now be invested where it matters most, into your growth, your craft, your character. That shift is powerful, because where attention goes, energy flows. And if your attention is always on things you don't control, you'll always feel powerless. But when your focus is on what you can do, who you can become, and how you can rise, then you become unstoppable. Life will test you. It will throw obstacles, delays, and detours in your path. But none of that defines you. What defines you is your response. The weak man complains. The wise man adapts. The weak man blames. The wise man learns. The weak man waits for life to get easier. The wise man becomes stronger in the face of difficulty. You are not meant to control everything. You are meant to control yourself. And that is more than enough, because the man who has control over himself, his thoughts, his reactions, his habits, has the foundation to shape anything else. He doesn't waste time in worry or resentment. He uses that time to build, to focus, to move with intention. Most people are scattered, their minds are cluttered, their actions are driven by reaction instead of purpose, but not you. Not if you choose this path, the path of mastery, the path of intention, the path of focusing only on what is within your hands. That's where real progress is made. That's where peace is found. That's where greatness begins, not in the chaos of control, but in the power of self-command. In the end, the path to true happiness, fulfillment, and personal power does not lie in the noise of the world. It lies in the stillness of your own mind. When you detach from opinions and anchor to purpose, you stop performing and start becoming. When you master your mind instead of trying to master the world, you step out of reaction and into response. When you stop comparing and start appreciating your own journey, joy returns. When you embrace simplicity, you make space for meaning. When you release the need for approval, you reclaim your authenticity. And when you focus only on what you can control, you stand unshaken no matter the storm. This is not about indifference. It is about liberation. The less you care about what doesn't serve you, the more you care about what truly matters. And in that space, you discover something profound. That peace is not something you chase. It's something you choose. The less you care, the freer you are. And the freer you are, the happier you become. So Let go. Stand firm. Walk your path, not theirs. And never forget, your power begins where your need for anything outside yourself ends.